Creator is a new sci-fi action movie directed by Garreth Edwards, who's known as the director of Godzilla and more famously Rogue One, a Star Wars story. This movie takes place in the year 2055. It's a time where AI and humans have been in some kind of just civil war with each other. AI has produced all this weaponry, these robots, these sentient beings to a degree, and the humans believe it's just gonna wipe out the human race. So they have now reached a point where they've declared war with them. They're trying to take them all out. Recently though, the AI have developed a weapon that is going to win the war for them, and the military just believes it's going to annihilate the human race once and for all. So they recruit John David Washington to go and find this weapon and destroy this weapon. However, when he comes across this weapon, he discovers that it's just seemingly this little girl AI that he now is faced with the conflict. Okay, do I destroy this AI kid or do I help this AI kid? I was really intrigued to see this movie for a long time. Garreth Edwards, I think, is a very underrated director. Seeing how Disney Star Wars has unfolded for us all, I think in retrospect, Rogue One is maybe the best Disney Star Wars movie. I mean, it's an original story, it's gritty, it's intense, it visually looks great, it has also one of the best Darth Vader scenes you will ever see in a movie. So naturally I saw the trailer for it, I'm just like, this kind of has what seems to be a bit of a Star Wars feel, definitely a really heavy sci-fi feel to it, so I'm thinking Garreth Edwards is probably going to be the right person to direct this movie and make it something special. Getting into what impressed me with this movie. Okay, John David Washington does a very good job here. Will he ever be on the same level of his dad? Probably not, but he always, from the movies I've seen, he shows up, he does what he needs to do, and he always executes it well. Like, I'm never gonna look at John David Washington in a movie and be like, that guy was the weak link. I mean, he's clearly a broken character, you understand why he's so damaged, and you ultimately see initially why he's going on this journey, going on this mission. But I do love seeing the conflicted side to him when he finds this kid and he discovers what she is, and he's like, I don't know what to do with you. Because it's not just a very cut and dry mission. I mean, it seems to be, but there are so many layers to it that he's starting to pull back, that he's starting to uncover for himself because of his own personal reasons. As a result, he gradually becomes this character that you become more connected with and you really begin to root for through and through. But getting to the performance in this movie, I gotta talk about this little girl that plays the little AI robot that he's supposed to destroy, that he kind of ends up working with. What's this kid's name? Madeline Una Voiles. There's absolutely no way I got that right. But as far as kid actors and kid characters go, she absolutely crushes it in this movie. I mean, she gives a very vulnerable, very strong performance for someone so young. I mean, she's very good at playing that, having that innocence to herself. Not just the fact that she's this little kid, but she's something that's just been created. She's not really entirely sure what the world is, what people are, what reality is. And again, the connection and the relationship that builds between her and John David Washington's character is very real. It's very, you feel like there's something growing there. Initially, he just sees her as a mission, and then as time goes on, he begins to feel like there's more to this little girl. I also thought Allison Janney was a really good villain here, because what I love seeing from her perspective is she's ultimately the one who's giving these missions, like, you gotta take these robots down, we gotta destroy them. And in her mind, she doesn't really see herself as the villain of the story, you know, she sees herself as a hero. She's like, we have to take these robots down if we're going to save the human race. And this right here is what I think is the biggest strength this movie brings, is how thematic it is. I mean, all the different themes that go on, you can really pick them apart. Because it's not just very cut and dry, like humans hate robots and, you know, it's just full-on war against the robots. There are a lot of humans out there that feel differently towards it. Like, some humans know these AI beings, they're just like, they're not evil, they're not a threat, they just want to be in peace. Like, they feel pain, they have a life, they have meaning. And then there are people, namely the military, like Allison Janney, who are just like, they are robots, they are just machines, they don't feel anything. There's nothing to them. We're just flipping a switch. We're turning it off. We're not doing anything wrong. We're not killing anyone. Like, you hear these conversations that these characters have in the movie and ultimately what they're all doing, and it makes you feel and make a lot of connections that are going on in the real world, like certain subject matter that might be brought up or certain conversations that people have where there are just two sides that are divided. That really impressed me, just how deep the movie went with a lot of its themes. It's a very thought-provoking movie, and I appreciate that. Also, the action in this movie is really intense, and visually, it looks stunning. And what really impressed me is I think the budget for this movie was around $80 million, and for a sci-fi movie, that is remarkably cheap. Like, it really is funny where we're getting at to a point in the world now. I mean, it used to be like, you know, the more expensive you made your movie, the more great your movie was going to be, or the more CGI you had in a movie, the more great it was going to look. Now it's like you look at a movie like Oppenheimer. Visually it was absolutely stunning. It used no CGI. That's incredible. Look at a movie like The Creator. It had an $80 million budget and visually it looks awesome. Like, I really am starting to feel like Hollywood is adapting the less is more mentality when it comes to their budget and it comes to visuals. And for a lot of the movies, I think it's working. This right here also gives me hope. Like, you know, oh, hey, Hollywood's saying you don't need a massive budget to make a great looking and complex and good sci-fi movie. Getting into the flaws I have with this movie, though, okay. I think, for me, there were a few characters in this movie that I kind of wish played a larger role than they did. Like, throughout this mission, throughout this journey, John David Washington and the little girl, they're kind of running into people who are either going to help them or going to be against them. And for some of these characters, they had very interesting backstories. They seemed like unique characters. I really were hoping we're going to play a major role in the mission, like kind of form this team with John David Washington. Not so much. They're kind of there for a scene, for something that contributes to the story, and then they're just not in the movie anymore. For me, that was disappointing. I would have liked to have cared about a few more characters beyond the main two that we are given. Also, I think the big issue that I had with this movie, the one that did bring it down a bit more for my liking, is just how familiar it is. And again, this is kind of the problem with sci-fi at this point. Sci-fi, we've seen so much. We've seen so many different storylines and so many different ways of showing us space and time and everything that goes along with that. As a result, when you watch this movie, you see a lot of different story elements from a lot of different sci-fi movies. I mean, I watch this movie, I see elements from District 9 and Elysium and Blade Runner and E.T. I mean, the list goes on and on. Like, when I watch this movie and I see the different plot points and the different things they're going for, I'm just like, I've seen that before, I've seen this before. I didn't see a whole lot of originality in this story. That right there is a little bit of a bummer. For me, because so much of the story seemed familiar, it made some of the story seem a little bit predictable. It kind of took me out of it a little bit. I'm just like, when are we going to get to something that's really unique and interesting and original, I should just say. Unfortunately for me, I don't think we ever really got to that point, and that was a little bit of a bummer. What this movie really carries itself on are its incredible themes that it touches on. And I will say, for a lot of people, that might be all you need to really fall in love with this movie. And who knows, you might be fine with it feeling a little old-fashioned and feeling familiar. You know, I get it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I guess for me, I'm just like, because I've seen so many movies and I'm such a big sci-fi fan when it comes to movies, I do want to see Hollywood start trying to go for something more original, and I'm hoping that there is a really original idea out there for the next great sci-fi movie. The cast across the board does a really good job. John David Washington, Allison Janney, that little girl actor, she's gonna get some great work for herself going forward. I hope she does. It has intense action, breathtaking visuals, and again, the fact that that was done with an $80 million budget, that's remarkable. I love the themes. I love the really deep meanings in the movie that you look for in the story. Wish more characters got fleshed out. I really wish it had a little bit more original of a story. But in the end, I had myself a really good time with this movie, and I do hope Garreth Edwards gets to take on more sci-fi projects. He's clearly very good at them. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video, and as always, don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.